Forward with the presentation. My name is Kathleen Smith. I am the Chief Marketing Officer of clearjobs.net and cybersecjobs.com. I am very honored to be able to be part of this panel and to bring together so many amazing leaders who are part of the community of cybersecurity. I would like to take this opportunity to have each one of our panelists give us a short introduction about themselves, and then we'll get into some interesting topics. So Sherry, can you share a little bit about you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sherry Rumbold, and I'm a National Information Systems Security Officer with the Department of National Defense and the Canadian Armed Forces. And one quick tidbit about me is that I spent 21 years in the Army.
Wonderful. Adina.
I'm Adina Saposnik. I'm the CISO and also the VP of Technology Planning for Ontario Health Digital Services. I am trained as a computer engineer. I'm also an alumni of Rothman School of Business with an executive MBA. And I'm actually absolutely delighted to be part of today's panel.
Wonderful. Thank you, Adina. June?
Hi, this is June Lang, and I'm the head of Identity and Access Management at Moneris, and we're the biggest payment company in Canada.
Wonderful. Marianne?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been in a variety of roles within the information technology industry for, 30 years now, but certainly none more exciting than the past 4 that I've spent at CyberArk Software. So for those of you who don't know CyberArk, we're the global leader in privileged access management and securing identities, but also a very gender diverse organization. So particularly proud of CyberArk having over 30% of the organization female, including in our technical roles. So excited to be here and join and share a little bit about women in security today.
And Michaela?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Michaela Stribling. I run corporate marketing and communications for Tenable. I am based in Silicon Valley, but I work for an East Coast-based company, and it's been an amazing ride.
Wonderful. So as you can see, we have a phenomenal group of women trailblazers who are going to share with us some of the interesting turns in their careers. But one thing that's been fascinating over the last 8 to 10 years is that ISC Squared has done a variety of surveys on workforce management and how people have been able to progress within their careers. So we wanted to bring up 2 key points: that women working in cybersecurity, about 1/4 or 24% of the overall workforce. And there was only 11%. Is women are more and more into management. You're seeing cybersecurity, CTO, IT, and board directors. I wanted to have Adina sort of comment on this as to how she's seeing this shift and what it has meant for the overall industry. Adina?
Thank you very much, Kathleen. The fact that there are more women, working in cybersecurity in the last 3 years doesn't surprise me, because basically there is a general trend, to encourage women to get into the STEM-related professions. And then because cybersecurity is such an ever-evolving, area, and it's also always changing, and I would say the most dynamic, for better or for worse, of all the aspects of the technology. Then obviously, this pool of talent that is represented by the ladies, definitely, forged ahead and actually got more and more significant presence in this space. What really, surprised me is the fact that we're saying that now, compared with men, women are forging a path, to management much faster than the men. That is it's a bit surprising, and I think that we'll actually going to put this into context, because maybe in the last few years, more women got into, in this type of positions, but don't forget that still the majority are men. And that is not, it's not a bad thing and it's not a good thing. It's actually, if we think about meritocracy, this is what, what's important is that we'll have, equal opportunity. But at the end of the day, I think that no lady will feel, proud of herself if she would understand that she was promoted only because she's a lady. I think that she's promoted because she was given an equal opportunity, and then she actually competed on equal footing, with everyone around her. Then, on merit, she got where she got. Now, I'm just looking around with my colleagues, and I'm seeing still, a majority of men. But again, me being like a true believer in meritocracy, I'm not, worried about this, because I'm looking at the first finding, and then when I'm seeing more and more, ladies getting into the cybersecurity space, and then it's only a matter of time, as they progress, and then will be more and more even at a higher level.
So I totally agree with you. I think the fact that more and more women are being promoted and evaluated based on their merit versus being just promoted into senior roles based on them just being a woman. Michaela, what are some points you see by these stats?
One thing that I think is important for us to bear in mind every time we read statistics about women in the workplace is that we're in a position where we still have to report on the numbers of underrepresented groups, women among them, in these workforces. And to some degree, I have a certain amount of heartache that we're even in 2020 still having the conversations that were started decades ago about, the importance of bringing a plurality of voices to the table. Having said that, I do think that there's probably a trend that I see happening, which is to say digital transformation has made cybersecurity much more front and center. So the moment cyber goes from being purely a technical conversation to a business conversation to an economic conversation to the understanding that you can't run a modern enterprise without solid cybersecurity practices, that means that you open up the floodgates to more and more people coming in with different perspectives. I myself am a late entry to cybersecurity. I've always been in high tech, but I've only gotten into cybersecurity over the span of the last 3 years or so. And part of the reason I got into cyber is that my then 16-year-old kid came home from school and said, "Mom, have you heard about this thing? Wanna cry? We're all gonna die. We've got to redo our whole OS. It's gonna be crazy." And I thought, okay, if teenage boys are talking about cybersecurity issues, vulnerabilities in high school during lunch, that means that we are at a tipping point as an industry. So what I perceive is that more women are getting into cyber because more people are getting into cyber, because cyber is more front and center for the way we run our economy. I do want to challenge us to think critically about the number of women in leadership positions, not just in cyber, but across the board. Let me give you an example. A couple of months ago, the Fortune 500 published a report around the highest percentage ever of women to be in C-level positions at Fortune 500 companies. That percent is 7. That's atrocious. That's not something that we should be celebrating. That is something where we should look at that number and say, okay, we've gotten to 7. Now let's get it to 10 next year. And then let's get it to 15 the following year, and so on and so forth. So I'm a big believer in this is a movement, and we've all got our role to play.
Awesome points, Michaela. Yes, we really need to look at the fact that we are opening the doors to more women and diverse groups coming into cybersecurity, because we are looking at cybersecurity now holistically as a business model, that we are looking across the board, that it is not something that is just siloed. It is something that impacts every single part of our lives. And when we talk about opening the doors, we're really talking about opening the career paths when we move into cybersecurity. And what I have always found interesting is that people have had many different turning points. Just as you said, you had a very interesting turning point in your career when your high school son came home and sort of exploded about what was going on with WannaCry. So I want to move on to our other panelists as far as talking about their career paths, so that others in the audience can really see that it is not a straightforward path, that each one of us have come from a point of saying, oh, maybe I have a new opportunity open for us. So when we're talking about our career paths, I really want to have our panelists sort of share sort of some turning points that they've had in their career, and also how they build themselves as a cybersecurity professional. Mainly, how do they build themselves as a brand? So June, would you sort of share with us your background and how you created your career in cybersecurity?
Sure, thanks, Kathleen. For me, I fell into technology world and later the cybersecurity world because I speak French. I actually don't have an engineering or computer science degree, as some of our panelists have. I have an arts degree. So I got my first job because company need bilingual staff to support customers in the French communities in Quebec and Canada. So the turning point for me was when I actually was in tech support department, and I was offered a job in a newly created public key infrastructure (PKI) department at one of my previous companies. PKI was a new initiative, and I recall that actually a VP sat me down and said, "June, are you sure you want to switch over there? They're new, you don't know what's going on." And I was like, like I'm still young. I didn't really listen to him. So then I was like, give me a try. Why not? So that's how actually opened door for me to the cyber world. So for me, and then I never stopped continue learning. I have lots of energy and I'm a go-getter and I get things done. So I'm also resourceful because I like to talk to people about at the individual level, what's going on, and I like connecting with them. So because of my curiosity and I like to learn, whenever I have questions or thing I don't understand, I go and ask people. And I think because I am not afraid to put myself out there to be vulnerable, that works for me so far.
Yes, one of the things I really enjoyed hearing from you as far as building your brand, you really talked about your honesty and your transparency. You want to touch on that just a bit?
Yeah, so I think for me is usually I like to, when I'm in a room, I like to observe. I want to see what's people, in a new meet and a new team, or when I join a new company, I like to observe and see what's going on in the room before I jump in and sort of give my opinion. I think that actually, because of the homework that I've done, I actually built respect and learn from each other, and so that helps me throughout my career for sure.
Wonderful. So Enza, do you want to share with us some turning points in your career and how you've built your brand within cybersecurity?
Absolutely, and I trust that you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Very good. Well, at least we shortened my introduction. And so we led right into Kathleen, and I will close us off to ensure that we address any points that we should have at the beginning. So thank you, Kathleen, for that question. As far as the turning point in my cybersecurity career, really ISA and some smaller consulting engagements prior to that is where I started, and I felt that like many of us, that it was an area that we had not covered. So I've been in technology my entire career. I refuse to tell people how many years that is. But the reality is that if in 1990 and 1991, as we were preparing to release the very first websites that hit the www, we knew that we would have to have policies and parameters to keep our digital assets or our identities secure. I'm not sure I would have believed it. So cybersecurity is critically important, and I see the turning point of choosing to really focus and take my knowledge and skill into that area. But a real turning point for me was in my mid to late 20s when I became the first vice president of operations for a high-tech firm. And what was interesting there is I had only been with the firm under 4 years, and of course the promotion was a little bit of a surprise to me. And there were 4 directors at the time, 3 men who were a little more senior to me in the organization, had a little more experience, and yet I was given that particular role. And it taught me quickly to really just focus, as Adina said eloquently, on the job at hand and not necessarily the diverse aspects or perspectives that we bring to the role, but doing the best that we can every day and really looking at innovation and change, because at the end of the day, innovation is about change. Thanks, Kathleen.
And Michaela, do you want to share with us, I mean, other than your high school son coming home and sort of opening your eyes to cybersecurity, what have been some of the other turning points in your career that you really sort of say, hey, this really opened up my opportunity in cybersecurity?
Yeah, for sure. So look, I think cybersecurity is the most interesting, compelling, and probably the most important place to be in technology today. It is juicy, it's exciting, it's mind-bogglingly complex, and it's relevant. And I think that it attracts people who are problem solvers by nature. So my background, like Enza's, is steeped in high tech. But I'm not an engineer by training. And I've had a knack over the course of my career to have companies take a chance on people like me who are not technical and bring a different perspective to the table. I was an English lit major in college, the first person in my immediate family to go to university. And I had a professor say to me, "You write really well under pressure. And somebody's going to pay you a lot of money to do that." And it was a mind-blowing moment, because I thought, wow, you can actually be paid to write? And I sort of went through and worked at companies like Hewlett Packard, and I was very happy at HP. They were great to me. And one day this company came along, because I'm in the Valley, in Silicon Valley. This small company called Google came along and was recruiting me to be their founding member of the internal communications team. And the amount of pushback that I got from friends and family, why would you leave Hewlett Packard to go to some no-name company that no one understands, with expressions like that, right? Where they would look at me like I was crazy. And I remember thinking, there's something to this search thing that I think is going to be big. And I took a big chance and stepped off, the big company train and went to a high speed startup. And the first week at Google, I actually called my husband and said, I made the mistake of my career. This is like the Wild West. Like, what the heck is going on here? I can't even figure out on Friday what we did on Monday. This thing is moving so fast. And what I learned is the importance of being agile and really taking it all in and embracing a new way of thinking. And those new ways of thinking actually set me up for success at Tenable, because Tenable is a company that embraces new ways of thinking. From the CEO on down, you have a new idea about how to tackle something, bring it to the table, and let's talk about it and go after a solution with energy. And that's why I'm excited to get up and go to work, or as the case may be, my home office every day.
Michaela, thank you, because I think we need to really highlight for many people that career paths within cybersecurity are never linear. They really are what I like to call more of a jungle gym. And we all have had those points, as you said, when you really say, do I want to take this jumping off point? Do I really want to make this decision? And even if you make a bad decision and you've done something that really probably isn't going to bring a paycheck, you've had a learning opportunity. You've had an opportunity to learn more about yourself, and you've had a learning opportunity to connect with new people. So there are no mistakes, just the curiosity to be constantly answering new questions and finding out to do things. But what's interesting is that one thing that I have really seen within the cybersecurity community is that it truly is a community. I have been part of many communities prior to this, healthcare, business insurance, nonprofit, and I never really saw a community. But I have really seen a community build around cybersecurity. And what I find fascinating for women in particular is that we have so many different communities that we can tap into. And I really want to sort of focus now on the communities, that how we have operated within communities and how that has really made a difference in our lives. Because as we are working now in a virtual reality or virtual work, virtual networking, we still do rely on our local communities. So I was hoping, Marianne, you would kick it off and sort of talk about your theories on engaging with local communities and your recommendations. Marianne?
Sorry, I was honoring my mute button. So thanks, Kathleen. You know, each of us comes from different communities. I'm sitting today in the Boston area, and I know we have participants from really all over North America. Whatever city you're in, you know, you made the point, Kathleen, everyone is interested in cybersecurity these days, right? And so I think the thing is to find a community that may be focused on broadly, you know, in Massachusetts, we have the Massachusetts Technology Leadership Council, and it's a terrific forum where, you know, cybersecurity was not a particular focus area, but that grew as there became more people interested in it. And so I would encourage people to, you know, start their own, right? Wherever you go, whatever type of community that you want to get involved in, and even within your own companies, there's very much people from different backgrounds and different aspects of the work, whether technical or on the business side, that are interested in learning more and talking more about cybersecurity. So whatever it is in your city, we have the Boston Club. I know Toronto has the Toronto Club, right? Every city has their own, but don't minimize the interest that there is very widespread in this topic of cybersecurity. So it's an opportunity to join a community and be a leader from the outset.
So Marianne, when you and I were chatting about this, you had some very definite points about what to look for in a community, not to just sort of drop in and join one. So do you want to sort of share your sort of strategy on how to be part of a community?
Sure. You know, I think it's really important to be a bit introspective and really think about what is it that you personally and professionally want to gain from this community, right? Is it that you're looking for a community to help you deepen your technical acumen, right? Is it a community that is your technical acumen really strong, but you're interested in learning more about the business side? And so depending upon the community that you join, again, many of these organizations offer communities, you know, finance, you know, intro to finance for technical professionals, or, you know, however it is, whatever the dimension of your career that you want to enhance as you try to take your career to the next level. I think being really thoughtful about what that aspect is, and not just trying to find people who do the same thing as you, but that have experiences that complement the expertise that you already have, to help expand your overall profile and help, you know, make an entree for you to new opportunities in the future.
Great, because one thing I've always found is that people will recommend like 2 or 3 key groups that they should always be part of. I have found that joining a community is establishing a relationship. It's establishing a partnership. So you really have to do your research ahead of time to say, what do you want to get out of joining a local community, and what do you want to provide? And realize that just because you join one group and it may not work, that you still have the opportunity to join other groups. So Sherry, working in the government community, I'm sure that it's a little bit more interesting about establishing support groups in women in government work. Do you want to share a little bit about what you've been doing in your community?
Sure. I'm in Victoria, British Columbia, in Canada. So in our community, actually, it's a small town. Victoria's not that large, but 250,000 or so. But we do have a lot of really fantastic communities, not only for women, but also for I think, a diverse group of people to get together and just communicate. So, some really great things that we've been doing here in our community is I was the president of ISACA Victoria, if anybody's familiar with ISACA, which is an international consortium of security professionals. But we had our own little chapter here. And what we started to do was a lot of mentorship programs with young professionals and whatnot, and bringing them into our sort of what we consider to be little meet and greets. And we would, have a question period. We wouldn't get up there to speak with them. We would do more of a social gathering. Of course, now that we're in the middle of COVID, we don't do that as much, but we do some of these things virtually as well. And there's a lot of really great opportunities. We have a She Leads Tech program that's actually been created internationally that a lot of women are joining and learning a little bit more about mentorship and things through that professional group that's actually been created, as well as lots of local groups. We have a Women in Security group called WOSEC, which is fantastic, led by Tanya Janka. I don't know if anybody knows Tanya, but she's a force to be reckoned with, and some of the smartest ladies I've known as far as Sec DevOps and things like that, and just a great mentor program for a lot of ladies that's looking to get into development, operations, and security. And then we also have another group here, which I'll give a great shout out to, and that's Women in Science and Technology for Victoria. So, all of these groups are created more to do some networking. I can't stress how important it is to network. Network is the key to building a successful career, I think, in cybersecurity. And I think that a lot of us know that, but it's not something that we communicate as effectively sometimes as we should. And I mean, bringing those young professionals or people that are looking to go into the field of cyber, which is my area, it's important to actually, get them involved in networking. I know that we're saying, don't commit yourself to communities if it's maybe not the best fit, but try before you buy is what I always say, and have a look and see what it is that's actually good for you. There's a bunch of us women across North America that are getting together for coffee chats online virtually right now in the middle of COVID. It's a good opportunity, especially for some of us that are sort of more new to working from home and working remotely on a regular basis. It's like, I like these chats because I'm going and asking for mentorship from my colleagues and people that I respect in the community, and say, how do you do this? How do you find that balance? How are we, together as a community still going to be effective? How do we not become workaholics and find that time to actually work together? So even if you are at a higher level, you still need to have that community. It's not just a community for younger people that are coming into the field. It's a community for all of us to help share our ideas and knowledge. And they say that you're going to become whoever you spend the most time with, which is 5 people or whatnot. So, choose those people wisely and be effective in how you want to build your career.
Sherry, thank you. Yes, Tanya is fabulous. If you're on Twitter, her Twitter handle, She Hacks Purple. She's, yes, as she says, she's a definite force to be reckoned with. One thing I'd like to add about communities is it's been so wonderful for our community to have many women's groups come that have, one, just started or have been around for a long time. But be sure also that when you look at different groups, you can look at groups that aren't specifically women in cybersecurity, but look at their leadership. There are many security groups out there that actually have several women in their leadership. And I am very fortunate to be part of Security B-Sides, which does all of the B-Sides conferences globally. They have 457 at last count. And many of the individual organizations have women in leadership. So those are my mentors. Those are my colleagues. Those are people that I network with. And, We make sure that we support each other no matter what. If it's technical or it's non-technical, we are there for each other. So Adina, you have had a great and long career. You have a lot more ahead of you. But what are some of the community groups or networking groups that have been of benefit to you? And how did you interact with them? How did you get involved?
Thank you, Kathleen. I like the way you put it, that I had a long career, but I still have a lot ahead of me. So thank you. You just, pivoted in the last minute there. But the thing is that, from a cybersecurity point of view, listening to all my esteemed colleagues, I can tell you there is one organization that actually you may be interested in, and it's called CyberLadies. It was actually started in Tel Aviv, in Israel, and it developed chapters now all over the world. Are quite a number of them in the States as well. And there is, at least for sure, there is a chapter in Toronto, but actually they are in Europe and in UK. And so look them up, and you may want to connect because they have some very interesting events where actually quite a number of ladies participate, and this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to network and to find more about the profession. At the same time, as Kathleen, said that, I have a long career behind me, and that is true. I'm not, you really are right, because, and I want to tell you that actually I'm very proud that I was trained as an engineer, because when I was trained as a computer engineer, in our class were people, out of which only 5 were girls. So, so that is really a trailblazing, type of career. But that being said, I also was very fortunate that I am an alumni at the Rothman School of Business. For some of you that are in the States are maybe not familiar with that, but it's the School of Business that is associated with the University of Toronto, and it's considered the preeminent School of Business in Canada. And so there, because I'm very much involved with the community of the MBA students, then starting about 2 years ago, I curated for them, a number of sessions, of half-day sessions that were bringing, highly skilled professionals from all over the place in terms of the cybersecurity subject matters to talk, to the community of alumni and community of the MBA students. And I was quite impressed that I remember that was the first session that we had was February, Friday morning. Some of you, especially the ones that are in Silicon Valley, you probably don't even understand what it means. A Friday morning in February in Toronto was dark, and it was bitterly cold. And the session started at 8:30, was full house, 150 people that, on a Friday morning in the cold, in the dark, came to listen on what's going on cybersecurity. So the interest, across the community, it's enormous, enormous. And that is also an opportunity to share with others, to actually help and to bring the visibility of the profession up. Because it's not only that there are lots of ladies that would like to be in cybersecurity, there are lots of ladies that don't know so much about this cybersecurity space, and they would like to bring brought up to date so that they will participate in it. So I personally am very proud, on one side, because of my activities related to the School of Business, but also I strongly encourage you to look up, the CyberLadies, and and we'll go from there.
Wonderful. So we're going to address our last question and then ask the audience if they have any questions. So be thinking about any questions you would like ask our panelists. So when you look at social media, when you look at any of the media over the last 2 or 3 years, you will see that we have a lot of people talking about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome seems to be something that has popped up in our vernacular lately, even though I'm very sure that many of us have had imposter syndrome throughout our career. I know there are many times when I knew information. My degrees are in biochemistry and law and society, and I would go in and make a presentation, but feel that everyone in the room was more than I am. So when we run into a time of imposter syndrome, and it is something that plagues many of us, I wanted our panelists to address imposter syndrome and how they were able to overcome and manage this. So Sherry, do you want to kick us off?
Absolutely. I think that for me, like 21 years in the Army, in a tech world where I was mostly the only female in the room, sometimes you certainly felt like that, and you're like, okay, so how do I get my mark in there? How do I get at the table? And how do I feel like I'm actually contributing? And then, some of the things that I've learned over the years is to, be there, say yes, take the opportunities as they come. And then as you really, really want to be there and you want to be a part of it and you want to be included. And then when you become a part of it and you are included and everything, you're like, oh, how did this happen? And how did I get here and things like that. So then you realize that you're struggling with your own inner sort of feelings of, do I belong at the table now that I'm here? And I think that there's of course, that's a huge yes. And I think that we all have to feel that, there's this old saying that a lot of people say, fake it till you make it or whatever. I think that there's a lot of people in the industry that absolutely are very smart, but they're not 100% sure where they fit in and whether or not that their skills are actually valid in the same setting as everybody else's. And I think that it is because, one of the things about cybersecurity, I think that we all know is that you're constantly changing and learning. And no day is the same as it was yesterday. And we are all still, it doesn't matter. I've just hit a milestone of 30 years in tech. I can't even believe that. But anyway, I did. And then I'm thinking to myself, I'm still learning every single day. Every day there's something new. And as we go up the ladder, I think that we need to embrace the fact that we belong. And I think that a lot of women over the years, has spent a lot of time trying to get to those level jobs where they feel that they've made it. And then it's embracing that and feeling comfortable with it. And I think that, leaning in to the situation and feeling like you belong is something that we all need to, I think, say that we are there and that we've done our work. I mean, there's a lot of women in the industry that work really, really hard and they never get the recognition they deserve for the work that they do. And it's a really sort of a sad thing because not everybody are, bigger than larger than life women that are going to sort of push their way through their career and say, I deserve to have a seat. I might be one of those that there was a time in my life where I didn't speak up ever. And then I realized that if I didn't speak up and didn't actually embrace, my knowledge and prove that I am, good at what I do and I want to be a part of this, then I'm not actually going to make it, So I think sometimes it's reaching outside of our own comfort zone and feeling comfortable with what it is that we're actually trying to achieve. And always believe in yourself. I can't say that enough. We all go through a little bit of a situation in which we feel maybe we're not deserving of what it is that we might get, but believe in yourself and say, wow, I'm going to celebrate my success no matter what.
Great points. June, you and I talked about this a little bit. Do you want to talk about how you have dealt with imposter syndrome?
Yes, I have to admit. I think at the beginning of my career, I probably experienced it, but nothing significant that that actually I remember, and it was a moment. I think as I start building my career and my brand in the leader or in the identity and access management world, it's actually because it's a niche market. You can't really. I don't really experience that anymore because really when you're at the table, you won't be person and not that many at the table. So I think for folks that are experiencing it, you notice that, as Sherry said, don't dwell on it, acknowledge it, get it, okay, good, but I'm moving on because I'm not going to care about it. I'm going to embrace what I'm learning, and I'm going to be confident, and I'm just going to move on. So don't let it get to you.
Really great points, because I think sometimes, well, I have always known that I am my own worst enemy. I am the one that self-doubts myself. And I share frequently that I have imposter syndrome too, no matter how many times I get up and present, which is why about a week or two ago, I released a blooper video of all of the webinars that I have done, and some doozies of bloopers. So if you have imposter syndrome, realize everyone has it, and it's always good to laugh at yourself, take a deep breath, and move on. Marianne, do you want to touch a little bit on imposter syndrome?
Sure. There are two things that have been said earlier in this panel that jumped out at me. So I'm going to reiterate points that my co-panelists have made. First, starting with June, because you didn't say it now, but in your first question answer, you talked about the importance of doing your homework. And I think it shows how humble you are, that you don't even raise it in terms of helping you overcome imposter syndrome. It comes so naturally to you, but it's so important, right? I think that confidence that you get from just preparing for whatever it is, the more comfortable you are with the material that you're going to discuss, the easier it is to feel confident speaking. So June, I 100% support and agree that doing your homework is just the base foundation. But then earlier, Adina used a word that I love. She used the word compete, right? And she talked about women competing. And if you think about that, right, every successful athlete out there, they have a training plan. They have team members that they select that help them become better. They may even employ a coach at a certain point to help them take things to the next level. So I really encourage women to think about, at what level do you want to compete at? And then what does your training plan look like? How do you start small, start with quick wins? How do you look at your peers and the communities that we've talked about to say, right, who can help me? Who else is training that could work with me? And again, those two aspects, do your homework and know that you're competing. And so there's more opportunity for women than ever before. There are more support networks. But at the end of the day, you got to think about what's important to you and how hard do you want to compete and how important different aspects are, and then build your training plan from there, and just go for it.
Because we sometimes think that people who really got to some kind of senior level, people who were in a position where they can be presenting or launching a new program, that they didn't plan, that they didn't work. And all of us who have been successful know that it has taken a lot of hard work. It has taken a lot of faith. It has taken a lot of time to just go in and say, this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm not going to have anyone doubt me. And I'm going to move forward to make sure that it is done the best way I can possibly do it. And that is something that I've heard from all of our panelists, is always doing their best, realizing that we are bringing our best foot forward and we are raising the entire community of women up when we are always doing our best. So a question that I was going to throw out to Michaela was something that we talk about a lot, of mentoring other women. But I think that one thing that we need to also do is mentor men in our community, and realize that there are going to be several times throughout our careers that there are going to be what I call teaching moments, moments when you have an opportunity with a colleague to be able to say, I'm sorry, I don't think you realize that that was maybe disrespectful or unprofessional. And I've had to do this several times in many of the different security conferences I've been at. And it's taken a certain amount of courage and then also a certain amount of compassion to be able to help men really improve the way they interact with women. So Michaela, I was going to sort of put you on the spot here, and hopefully you can share with us some points of when you've had opportunities of teaching moments with men, or how you have mentored men throughout your career.
Sure. It's a great question. For me, mentoring men starts very close to home, because I'm the mother of 2 sons. And I think that it's really important for me personally to make sure that my boys understand that women are not limited in any way, shape, or form by their gender, their sex, that they have a responsibility. They, as men in training, have a responsibility to be equal partners to their future partners. And what that means is that my dreams and my aspirations are no less important than any man's. And there's power in being able to say, we are standing on equal footing. At Tenable, let me take a step back and say the question of community for me starts before you make the decision to join a company. Because whatever company you join, that's your community. It's the community of customers, it's the community of coworkers. So at Tenable, for us, one of our deeply held beliefs is that we are one team, one Tenable, we call it. We rise together, we compete together, we achieve together. And so sometimes it has to do with having conversations with people where I feel comfortable saying, hey, look, this is not my area of expertise, but let's talk about AppSec for a second, because I think that there might be a way to tie it to this other trend that I'm seeing here. And I'm very comfortable going out on a ledge and taking that risk. Sometimes there have been moments when the man, the gentleman I'm speaking to, will look at me a little quizzically, like, why are you asking that question? You work for Tenable. You should know all about AppSec. Actually, I don't need to know all about AppSec because I'm surrounded by people who are experts in their domain. Your domain expertise is AppSec. My domain expertise is how to communicate the value of AppSec. So I'm asking you to tell me what your considered opinion is on this piece, and I'm expecting you to respect my considered opinion on this element of the conversation. I'm pretty direct, and I think that there's a benefit in being super direct with people about what works and what doesn't work. However, you have to make sure that you work in an organization where that type of honest discourse is respected and embraced and admired and expected.
Michaela, thank you so much. So Julie, Michelle, do we have any questions from the audience?
Hi, Kathleen. Thank you. We do have one question that came in through the audience. So Donald McCandless asked, what we in the military do what can they do to encourage females to apply for cyber jobs and ensure career progression, especially for the senior enlisted officers? I think this question is probably more for Sherry.
I was going to say that both Sherry and Adina could type into this one. So Sherry, you want to kick it off?
Well, absolutely. I think that some of the key things that if you're not already in the service and you're thinking about that's something that you actually want to do, we have in Canada, and I'm sure in the United States and other countries as well, there's recruiting departments that actually go in and you can look at each of the professions and see what actually might suit your needs. So, I mean, in the Canadian Armed Forces, we have fantastic opportunities. We even have a new profession called cyber operations. That has been actively recruiting over the last few years. So if there is something that actually interests you as far as what the profession's trades, and if you're enlisted in the ranks or if you're wanting to look at it from an officer perspective, there's many different types of careers. So I think it's going into those recruiting centers at the initial side and looking at that. And if you're already in the service, then, reach out to mentors and people that are already in the profession that have advanced in their careers, whether it be women or men, and look to them and say, how are you doing that? And what tips can I have to improve my career progression? I think it's really, really important. For me, I always go and look at people 3 steps higher than me, and I look to them for mentorship, and I look to them in the sense that saying, if I wanted to, how could I get to where you are? So then that's a really good tip and trick to seeing how it is that they've done what they've done. And then it helps with your progression in your career. And also, you know, the military has great opportunities, but also the private sector and the public service, which are civilian employees, which is what I am now, to national defense and others have wonderful opportunities as well. So there's lots and lots of there's no shortage of work, they say. In the military, it's a little bit harder because of security clearances and all these other things to get through, and depending on citizenship and things like that. So recruiting center, fantastic. And then look at people that are already in profession and get some mentorship.
So I'll just sort of pipe in here for in the United States. I'm a military spouse, and I also work for a veteran-owned firm. So this is one of my sweet spots as far as talking about military careers, military transition. And I've had the honor of interviewing several women who have had their careers within cybersecurity within the military. And they really looked at all of the different opportunities that were available to them within the military. And I think that those are the things that are not really shared in many of the marketing and PR material, as far as, you know, the student loans payments, the getting a home. There are a lot of benefits that come with a career within the military, but then there are also training opportunities that are unparalleled that happen within the military versus the civilian sector. Adina, did you have any comments on this?
Okay, so thank you. I would look at it not specifically only to military, but in general, how to get, more women into the cybersecurity space. So I would like to suggest from two vantage points. One vantage point is from the leadership point of view. From the leadership point of view, we all need to be open-minded. We all need to embrace, like a more diversified workforce. And don't forget that cybersecurity is actually the only subject matter profession where the actual unemployment rate is negative. That means that it's more demand than it's the supply. And because of that, there is a great opportunity, for more and more people to participate into that. So whoever is, in a leadership position, it actually has to try very hard to have an open mind and to embrace as diversified, pool of candidates as it is possible. And what we've seen from some of our panelists, you don't need to be you don't have to be, somebody that was trained in this profession, to start with. You can learn, you can, progress. And that is an area that you can really learn and progress tremendously. Now, from the other side, it's a candidate or somebody that is actually very interested in this area, to how, June was mentioning, is that try to find out, some contacts. Usually people, if you call on them, they will answer and they will give you, the 15, 30 minutes of a discussion. And this is how you are, basically, it's how you are going to start to network. And maybe in a certain, area that is maybe not a wide one, but still, very focused area that you start to network. And you are starting to get, more contacts. And then you are starting to get more ideas about, how to navigate to get into this profession. So hopefully this helps.
Wonderful. So I know we're running over, but I want to squeeze this last question in and have Marianne address it. So Marianne, one of the questions that we have from the audience is, and I know that you do a lot of mentoring. Can you share a little bit about how you set up the format for mentoring and how you set the boundaries? And we only have about a minute or two to address this question, but I know you're an expert at this.
The thing that I would just say about mentoring is when you are initiating a relationship or looking for a mentor, I think you need to be really specific about, again, what it is that you're looking for. Are you looking for a mentor, which is someone just to meet with maybe once a quarter to bounce ideas off of and get some feedback? Or are you looking for a sponsor, right? Are you looking for someone in your company at a higher level who actually can help you get advanced? And there's a difference, right, in terms of how you would want them to behave, what actions you would want them to take. So my one takeaway in terms of mentorship is, again, be thoughtful. I have a lot of people come to me and say, will you mentor me? And I'd say, great, what are your goals? What specifically can I do to help? And they look at me blank stare. They haven't thought about that yet. So back to June's point, do your homework, know what you're looking for. And I promise if you go in, you know what you're looking for and you're specific in that, there will be plenty of people who will want to help.
I definitely echo that, because what's interesting is that a lot of people will ask me to find them a job, or they will ask me what to do with their career. And just like you said, someone will ask for a mentor. If you're going to ask someone for help, be first sure that you've done your research as to what you are looking for, and being succinct when you make that request of the person, if they're helping you find a job, if they're helping you network, or if they're helping you to mentor. You need to take the responsibility and ownership of starting that relationship off on the great foot. So we are all out of time. I'd like to turn it back over to one of our co-hosts, Enza Alexander, to wrap up our webinar today.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. I didn't get the pleasure to properly introduce Kathleen Smith as our moderator today. Kathleen is the Chief Marketing Officer at clearedjobs.net and cybersecjobs.com. She brings a wealth of experience in the areas that we covered today. And at RSA in 2020, Kathleen was actually awarded and recognized for her recruitment work in the area of cybersecurity and continuing to evolve in this very exciting field. I need to really just take a moment and talk about CyberArk and Tenable, first of all, for your support of this particular event and enabling us to bring together a world-class team of successful leaders in the area of cybersecurity. And we reach out to all of the men that have participated today and say, you know, we're equally as proud of you in choosing a career in cybersecurity and continuing to help us improve this field. I believe Adina said it best by saying that there is a shortage of talent in this particular sector. As we continue to grow, millions of jobs are lacking. And so we would like to promote the diversity and appreciate what both Michelle and Michaela have brought to the team and helping us understand how our key partners are supporting that diversity. So big thank you to CyberArk and Tenable that are very strategic partners. It's pretty exciting at ISA. Our leadership team is 50% female. And so I reach out to our CEO and I congratulate him, as well as the team of our male colleagues that put up with our perspective and enable us to continue to grow in the field which we have chosen for our careers. Sherry, great perspective. My son-in-law is an officer in the forces. And so thank you for painting a picture of a positive future that he can have. And to really June and Adina, your perspectives and helping us understand public, private sector, some of the challenges that we face in that area. And I think, Marianne, you said it best, and we all alluded to it. Have belief, select someone that can help you to achieve the learnings, the knowledge, the growth that you need in your career. Continue to understand how cyber can assist, and let's all work together. Two lovely ladies that I need to recognize today, not our panelists, but very much responsible for helping us pull this together. Michelle, Julie, always a pleasure to work with you. Thank you for your guidance and leadership in this message today. And let's all do the best that we can to beat the cyber criminals and keep ourselves safe of cyber crime. Thanks, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.